Hello, and welcome to another episode of Below the Hospital, an AAMI podcast on sterile processing and the issues that sterile processing technicians face today. I am your host, Garland-Rhea Grisby Sr., Sterile Processing Manager at Sutter Health, CPMC, and a long-standing AAMI member. In this podcast, as you know, I interview folks from around the industry about sterile processing and ask informative questions about our profession. Today, I have the pleasure of speaking with someone that I've known for quite a few years now. She was my mentor when I first stepped on the scene as co-chair of AAMI Working Group 84, which brought us all AAMI ST79. I have Ann Drosnock. Ann is a seasoned healthcare executive with Healthmark Industries, a Gettingen company. She serves as head of clinical affairs at Healthmark. She's a fellow at APIC and AAMI and holds a Doctor of Health Sciences. She was also recently appointed as co-chair of AAMI's Working Group 40, Steam Sterilization Hospital Practices. Ann, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Garland. You're bringing back all the memories with ST91 from when you started with the group. So I had a wonderful time bringing that document over the finish line with you.
Thank you, and I appreciate you for sticking around for a while because you extended your term for me, so thank you. So let's get into the discussion today about ST79. So let's just set this stage, right?
Mm-hmm.
First published in 2006, been revised a number of times, 2010, 2017. Now, that standard may be old enough to drive change, and many of us in sterile processing, we've heard of it, we've used it, but what does it do and who is it for?
Yeah, I think that's a great question to set the stage, Garland. ST79 is really the foundational AAMI standard for, in my opinion, and I think the opinion of most sterile processing folks, it deals with steam sterilization and sterility assurance in healthcare facilities. And it really serves a wide audience from sterile processing professionals to your infection preventionists, biomedical engineers, and even manufacturers, because it outlines the best practices and requirements for cleaning, inspection, packaging, sterilization, and storage of reusable medical devices. It's really like our Bible in sterile processing. It's that comprehensive roadmap from device receipt back to release. And by following it, you're helping to comply and even ensure patient safety and compliance. And that holds a lot of weight in the accrediting body eyes, like from the Joint Commission and CMS.
A mouthful.
It's a lot. Yeah.
And you know what? You're right. And we have heard it as being called our Bible, and that's just that, right? Now, I know the need, you know the need, but what need is this revision filling?
Yeah, so we're going to open up the document for revision, the full document, but in a structured manner, taking it in parts and really prioritizing what we need to work on in what stages. So this new revision, hopefully, if I have my way with it, will address the needs to really modernize the guidance. You said the original, not the original, but the latest version is 2017, and then we had the amendments after that. But we've had continued evolving technologies. There have been just changes in what we consider best practices. There have been more published studies released. There are new materials and more complicated instruments. And we continue to have workflow challenges. So with the new instrumentation that's available, with cleaning verification tools, innovations in packaging and sterile storage configurations, we've seen a lot of change since then. And I think it's really important that we address it head on and make those updates to ST79. By doing so, we would also want to harmonize then with other AAMI standards that are more recent than ST79, like ST91, our baby, which deals with flexible endoscopes and really clarify any areas of confusion that have been identified by the feedback from our working group and the general community and some things that have been found in audits. So I'm really excited about what the changes can bring and what we can do with this document.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I was just talking to my employees about how we don't know everything. It doesn't matter how long we've been in the industry. we do not know it all because there's always something that's going to change, which is the reason why there's so many different revisions with these guidelines and these guidance documents that's out there. So that being said, this particular revision, right? You mentioned a couple of things that's changed, but was this particular revision process kicked off in response to feedback from the healthcare community?
Oh, yeah, for sure. We have heard feedback on the standards level for many years that we need to update this document. And specifically, people would identify to me what we need to change. So, community input is really at the heart of it. We received that extensive feedback from healthcare facilities, from surveyors, from departmental educators, even manufacturers pointing out areas that need clarification or modernization. Some common themes, including clearer guidance on quality assurance monitoring, I think has been one that's been identified to me. Updates and requirements for documentation and training, and better integrations to our preventionists and risk management framework. So, yeah, this really is a community driven update designed to support our real world end users, those technicians in the field.
Nice. Now, I know some years ago, we always used to say, this the guidance document is great, but it makes absolutely no sense in the real world, right? And times have changed. And I remember when I first came into, the AAMI groups, you would always say, hey, you need to tell the users to get involved, right? So that way it's speaking from a user perspective. If we don't understand the user perspective, you'll get the documents that you've been getting. So that begs the question, who's involved in revising this document? And also, how is sterile processing involved in this process?
Yeah. So, as background for everybody listening, AAMI standards are developed through consensus committees. In this case, it's the AAMI Sterilization Standards Committee, particularly Working Group 40, that's responsible for ST79, this document that we've been talking about. And within this working group, you have makeup from different participants in the industry. That includes sterile processing professionals, leadership from sterile processing, infection preventionists, manufacturers, professional societies, even the FDA and CDC have been members of these working groups, and I hope we'll continue to do that in the future. So importantly, we see that frontline sterile processing professionals are represented on the working group, and many of them do serve as voting members or task group people, reviewers, all of that. So the voices are heard there from frontline staff, and their perspective really ensures that the document remains practical, which you talked about. Like, how are we going to implement this? But yet we need to make sure that it's still evidence based and remains implementable then in the busy hospital settings. So I remember when I joined AAMI, which was pretty many years ago now, it was we didn't see the balance that we see now. We were always trying to get more end users involved, and they've really responded to our call, and I'm so happy about that because I want there to be fair and balanced representation, not feeling like things are one-sided in any way. And
Mhm.
so hearing that call to action, please get involved.
I remember it's funny because I think when we hit 51%
Mm,
end user involvement, I think it was a round of applause, right?
mhm.
Because it
I
was
remember.
yeah,
Yeah.
we end users weren't active. But then again, most of them didn't know that they could be. So, it's the great call to action as far as folks getting involved.
Mhm.
Now, what do you wish your average sterile processing tech knew about standards development process?
Oh, that's a good question. Well, I think without exposure to the process, because it is such a distinct process, that you really can't even imagine it. But I think what I'd want people to know is that standards aren't written by distant or separated organizations. They're really written by the working group together. And that means they're written by people like you, the listeners on this podcast. Every voice matters. Everybody can say give their input. And I, as a co chair, have always strived to make sure that everybody's voices are heard. Anybody can join a working group, comment on drafts, or share feedback. you have certain requirements, like, if you're from one institution, you only have one member, one voting member, or you have a designated alternate. But you can really make sure that your voice is heard in one way or another. And understanding that why behind the requirements, what we really debate, or how we come to a conclusion of what's written finally in the document, understanding that why behind it helps makes sense so much more when you're a frontline staff member. Like, I can remember, when we were working through ST91, and we'd have these long back and forth debates about, what is this going to be, a should or a shall, and what implication is that going to have for a facility? Well, if you're involved, you were there for that debate and understand why we came to the decision that we came to in the end. And I think that that really makes your daily compliance life easier. And it really fosters professional pride in being a part of that science behind the patient safety that you live every day. And I think that's important, and people don't often understand that.
Thank you. That is an awesome explanation. And it's a daunting task. It's not something that happens overnight. Um, to your point, the back and forth conversation on just one word, right? Should, shall,
Yep. Yep.
must, and things like that, right? And then, I remember the conversation that we had. I think we went back and forth on gloves for two
Mm,
hours, right? So it's a long process, but again, like you mentioned earlier, it's a consensus document, and everybody's opinion matters and is considered. So we can appreciate that. I know I was able to appreciate it when I first got involved, because I didn't know what to think when I first walked in the room.
yeah. Yeah, I remember, Garland, when we were going through ST91, and the group, we had gone back and forth about what is our guidance going to be on manual disinfection. And in the end, we made a statement that we no longer recommend manual disinfection. And I remember stopping the group and looking at you and saying to everybody, "Do you realize what we just did? This is a huge, huge impact
Yep.
for your office settings, your remote facilities, where we're saying you should not be manually soaking in a basin of disinfectant anymore." So being there to see all that really does give you that professional pride, and understanding, this is important. We made this decision for a reason, not just because we don't want people to do this anymore.
Right. Right. Yeah, that was a tough one. It was almost dead silence. It was almost dead silence at that point, because it was a major change, right?
Yeah.
And we knew that it was going to be a change that folks would have to make over time, because bandwidth and capacity and things like
Mhm.
that, and some infrastructure that people didn't have, that they would have to move to. But again, we always talk about what drives the change in facilities. It's guidance documents.
That's
Now,
right.
you can go and say, hey, this isn't right, we shouldn't be doing this. And what happens? Where's the data to support it, right? and
Exactly.
and now you have documents like this. So now this is almost a trick question, and
Mm-mm.
I'm saying it because I know how long it takes, as do you. But do you have a rough timeline for the revision process?
Oh, we're almost done, Garland. It should be issued shortly. Just kidding. um, we have just started the process. In fact, I'm just working with my co-chair Orlando now, and Amy staff, to get a survey out to the members of the working group. So if you want to get involved in this, please, now is your time to do it, because we are at the very beginning stages. So I can't even tell you it's well underway or anything like that. We're just starting. And the survey that's supposed to go out is going to really evaluate, or ask the working group members, where should we start? What is the most impactful? What is highest priority? And then the plan is that we'll break those into separate task groups that can work on revising that section together. And that's then what we'll bring back to the committee. I don't know if it'll be all at one time or in segments, but this is going to take a while. I i would love to be optimistic and say we can do it in 2 years, but we all know that it's a huge document, hugely impactful. So I really want to make sure we do a good job with it. So the timeline is not set, but I want to make sure that we do it right, and that is going to take time. But again, now's the time to get in.
Yep. It's like they say in the construction field, measure twice, cut once.
That's right.
And yes, I remember we ST91. We thought we were done, and then at the 11th hour, there was a document that came out that
Yep.
forced us to go back in and review everything.
Yeah.
So, do you have a call to action? You just told folks to get involved. Now is the time. I mean, you can reiterate that, but do you have a call to action?
Yeah, I think I do want to reiterate what I said, Garland. Just get involved. You think if this is something ST79 that is impactful to you, you use it in your daily work, you feel like you have valuable insights that can shape the next edition of it, you have disagreement with something as it's written now, and you want to shape the future of what it says, please get involved. Join the AAMI Working Group 40, or any others that you're interested in. Or if you can't do that, you can always participate in the public review, or simply start reading the standards that you rely on every day. Purchase them, read them, get familiar with them. Now, the more frontline voices that we include in the document, I truly believe the stronger, clearer, and more usable that guidance becomes. We don't want to set unrealistic expectations, but
Mhm.
we also don't want to shortcut the process just because something is not convenient to have to implement a new way of doing things. So it's really a balancing act. So getting involved at this stage is really where we're going to have the most impact.
Well, thank you, Marianne. I appreciate you taking the time out of your busy day to sit with us. And is actually no better time than to have this conversation with you because it is SPD week, or sterile processing
Yes.
week. So, for all of our sterile processors out there, we thank you. We appreciate what you do. You are the heart of the hospital, the backbone of the hospital. Without you, there would be no hospital or no surgeries taking place. So just want to give you all a shout out there and let you know that you are valued. Yes, we're called below the hospital, but we hold it up.
That's right. I couldn't say it better myself, Garland. And thank you to everyone. We couldn't do what we do without you. And we, as Garland said, couldn't have surgeries. So you are heard, and we respect everything that you do.
So thanks again, Marianne. And folks, as usual, I hope this episode has been useful. We'll be back in 2 weeks with another episode. If you want to support the podcast, you can find us at Below the Hospital on Spotify, Apple Podcast, YouTube, and AAMI Array. Until then, see you when I see you.